It is ominously and aptly named. It is a 20-mile wide stretch of water in the South Pacific's Solomon Island chain, known as Iron Bottom Sound.
Iron Bottom Sound was the site of probably one of the most critical naval battles, actually not just one battle, a total of about 5 battles within a several-month period of the Second World War.
The Sound sits on the north shore of Guadalcanal, the jungled island infamous for the fierce fighting and heavy casualties among Allied and Japanese forces. But the naval battles offshore were just as fierce and deadly.
This was really the first time these two naval forces came into contact in a really serious surface ship to surface ship battle. These battles, the 5 or so different battles, went back and forth with horrendous losses on both sides. There are 110 ships sunk, or 111 maybe, sunk in this very, very small area.
Larry Mayer is director of the University of New Hampshire's Center for Coastal and Ocean Mapping.
Here we have the bathymetric data.
Working with 4 other universities and the Ocean Exploration Trust, which owns the Nautilus research vessel, he was part of a team scanning Iron Bottom Sound for the final resting places of those ships.
We were here with a team of naval historians, both on the ship and ashore. We have scientists ashore who can connect with us as we would go and visit each wreck, really try to understand what actually happened, because these histories are often very blurred in the heat of battle.
Mayer and his team played a critical role in the expedition with UNH's DRIX surface vessel.
This is about a 7.7 meter, 25-foot, very, very sleek, fast-moving surface vessel, uncrewed, autonomous, and that system, the DRIX, had a sonar system mounted on it that was optimized for mapping in the water depths of Iron Bottom Sound.
After the DRIX identified a target, the Nautilus would move in with its remote vehicles and high-definition cameras, often solving decades-old mysteries, like that of the Japanese destroyer Teruzuki, which lost its stern in battle.
And the reason that everybody had thought it had lost its stern was that the depth charges on the stern of the vessel had exploded and knocked off the stern. And sure enough, there was the stern. And as we looked at the stern, they were all 6 depth charges sitting there, unexploded. And it just totally rewrote history as to what had happened there.
And then there was the American warship New Orleans.
This was a cruiser, a U.S. cruiser, which was not sunk, but lost its bow during one of the early battles of Guadalcanal, and managed to do some repairs and sailed backwards all the way across the Pacific. So an amazing story of resilience and ingenuity, but to find that bow, the naval historians were so excited.
Mysteries solved, discoveries made, much data still to be examined. The expedition also advanced the science of deepwater exploration. Progress and enthusiasm tempered by the hard reality that Iron Bottom Sound is the deep and watery grave of 20,000 American and Japanese sailors.
There was the excitement of discovering new things, but there was also the very somber aspect to realize that we were in a place where literally tens of thousands of sailors had lost their lives. And so we tried all the time to be very, very respectful of that.
And you may remember the story of the Sullivan brothers of World War II, 5 brothers from Iowa who lost their lives in service. Unimaginable.
Yeah, and it changed the way that the military deploys members of the same family. The Sullivan brothers were all serving on the USS Juneau, which was one of the ships sunk in Iron Bottom Sound in November of 1942. We should mention as well that all of those U.S. ships are official U.S. war graves. They are observed, as you saw, but they're never touched.